Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies, television series, and do celebrity legal news. Also, join me for my pop culture chats. If you'd like to support the channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. My Venmo and Cash App is below. Thank you so much, and let's get started. Hello, hello, hello. Listen, I want to go over the introductions and things like that. Welcome so much. Welcome to Pam Entertainment TV, and welcome to this week's pop culture chat, where we go over different stories in the news, and we kind of go over them and lightly dissect them. While I got you here, please make sure you hit that like button on the way in. I really do appreciate it. Also, subscribe, and once you subscribe, you'll be open to a plethora of videos that I have done on pop culture chats, celebrity legal news, movie and television reviews. Right now, I'm in my celebrity legal news and my pop culture bag. So make sure you follow along. Also, if you hear any whirling, that's just my fan. It is 90 plus degrees where I am at, and it doesn't seem like my air conditioner wants to get back to working. You know what I mean? So we got to help it along. Let's see how we're doing this. Yeah, we got to help it along so it'll do what it needs to do. Let's see if that works. All right, so copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might be otherwise infringing. I will be showing videos and articles. And so, therefore, we'll be using those to go over to kind of go over the theme of what I am talking about, because basically what this is an update on the Essence Fest. And the title of this whole thing is All Skinfolk and Kinfolk. All right. And so what we're going to do today, I'm going to give some more history and information about those that are running Essence Fest and the common pretty much themes from Black Americans and those from those from the African diaspora. I want to give Black Americans some information that you can use going forward so that you can make the decisions on whether or not that you want to put your dollars in certain places. And I'll explain all of that as we go on. Now, I also want to say the views and opinions expressed in my videos represent my own thoughts, concerns, and analysis. I don't know these folks. And I'll tell you time and time again, I do not know these folks. These are my personal opinions, and they are not statement of facts. What I will say to you is this. All information, unless a source is cited, is alleged. Okay? So what we'll do is we'll go over all of this stuff. Again, like to put this up. So we are basically going over what's going on with the Essence Fest. And as you recall, Essence Fest happened last weekend, and there was a lot of reports out of the Essence Fest about it didn't seem the same. It didn't seem like it was catering to Black American culture when that is what the Essence Fest has started. And so a lot of people were talking about that. And so I want to be able to go over that information with you. But let me bring to the screen because your girl love a good PowerPoint. So this is just my update on what's going on with the Essence Fest. Now, I wanted to go over this and make sure that this is being understood, because I know that there was a lot of incidents about Susan L. Taylor, and that she founded Essence Fest. She's Caribbean, so therefore Essence Fest was not a totally Black American function, because there was a Caribbean American who was running it. So let me be very clear. These are the four founders of Essence magazine, and they are Edward Lewis, Clarence O. Smith, Cecil Hollingsworth, and Jonathan Blunt. They established Essence Communications in 1968, with the magazine launching in 1970. The initial concept for the magazine was a lifestyle magazine directed upscale African American women. Okay. And so I want people to understand that this is how it started. So when people talk about Black American culture, this is what they were talking about. Now, when we come to Susan Taylor, and I'll read what it says here. Magazine editor Susan Taylor was born in Harlem, New York on January 23rd, 1946. Her parents are from St. Kitts, and one of her parents is from St. Kitts and her other is from Trinidad, and they came to New York in the 1920s. He says Taylor started at Essence Magazine as a freelance beauty editor when it launched in 1970. She moved on to fashion and beauty editor and finally editor-in-chief in 1981. And she was editor-in-chief from 1981 until 2008. So she stepped down in editor-in-chief in 2000, and she stepped down from Essence in 2008. So this is who Susan Taylor is. This is who she was in her identity at Essence. Now, here's some Essence facts. The Essence Festival, originally known as the Essence Music Festival, it was held on its inaugural event in 1995, and it was held July 4th, 1995, and it was planned to be a one-time celebration because it was commemorating the 25th anniversary of Essence Magazine. After the festival, it was such an overwhelming response to how it was performed because, again, if you've ever gone, you know that the Essence Festival, in the morning time into the afternoon, they have conferences scheduled. You go in, and those are conferences that that are set up. They're for education. You will learn beauty tips because, again, it was designed for African American women, Black American women. So they did beauty tips. They did tips on businesses. They did health. It was all kinds of things. And that portion of the Essence Fest was free. So you had panels and discussions and everything like that. And that portion of the Essence Fest was free. What you paid for was the concerts, was the music, because, again, it was initially a music festival. So it celebrated all Black American music. Okay. And so it became a staple in New Orleans, and every year it happened in New Orleans. Now, when Katrina hit, it was moved to Houston in 2006, and then it came back to New Orleans. Then in 2020, the festival was canceled because of COVID, and then it came back. Okay, so I want everybody to understand when you hear Black Americans say that this was for us, by us, this is what they were talking about, that it was to celebrate Black American music. Okay. Now, in 2000, right when Susan L. Taylor stepped down, Time Inc. purchased 49% of this magazine. So it was mostly Black owned. And then in 2005, they bought the remaining 51%, and then it was no longer Black American owned. It was owned by white America. Now, from what I understand, that there was numerous issues and problems and discriminations and who could do this and whatever was going on, and stripping the magazine down. And if you're not familiar with the history of America in regards to Black Americans and their stuff, if they can't drown you out of the market, if they can't push you out of the market, the first line of attack is to, number one, to criticize or to belittle what you're doing. If they can't criticize, if that doesn't work, the criticizing and the belittle of your stuff. The second thing that they'll do is they'll try to squeeze you out of the market. They'll then turn around and take what you're doing, and they try to duplicate it 6, 7, 8 times in different other places, and to try to water you down in the market. If they can't water you down in the market, the last thing that they want to be able to do is to buy you out. Now, depending on what's going on in the magazine, depending on what's going on in the business, because we all know, if you all have ever tried to start a business, the first few years are you struggle. You may get to a good stride, but then when you start to expand and do other things, it gets to be a little hectic in regards to how to do those things. And for some business owners, it may get too much. They'll add some partners, get somebody to, so they can get some cash and a thing. It's a whole lot of stuff going on with the business, and I don't want to go in through all of that. But it seems like time was having some issues and some problems, and the ownership of the Essence Corporation wasn't worth the squeeze to them, because they were having lawsuits and stuff like that. So then in 2017, it was purchased by Essence Ventures, which was founded by Richelieu Dennis, who is a Liberian businessman. Okay. Essence Ventures purchased Essence Communication for an undisclosed sum in January of 2018. The company has since moved to 100% Black female leadership and continues to focus on the empowerment of Black women. Now, the wording you see the wording, and it does mean that. So where it started off with Black American women, now it's Black female leadership, Black women. So what that means is that they in that purchase, they were expanding it to include people of the diaspora. Now, let me explain this, and I want to be very clear, because I think a lot of times people get upset. When you talk to Black Americans, Black Americans say, we are Black. Now, it wasn't up until Jesse Jackson, in his effort with his organization Rainbow Push, to get to not only try to bring more money into his organization, and also his belief in Pan-Africanism, that they expanded. The term African American comes from that, because again, interchangeably, Black Americans can say that they're African Americans, or they'll say they're Black Americans. But what we have found here recently is there is a certain confusion. And one of the confusions that we have is that when people say African American, most people are talking about people who are first, second, or third generation immigrants to the United States of America from the African continent, or from the African continent. Now, Caribbean Americans, understood, come from an island from the Caribbean: Jamaica, St. Kitts, Dominican Republic, Haiti, all of that. Okay. So I just want to be clear about all of those different things and the different terminologies. So let's continue. Now, here's what's interesting about, we're just going to talk about some information in regards to that. So there was an op-ed about the current CEO, the current owner of Essence Venture, and that's Richelieu Dennis. Now, there was supposed to have been, he had stepped down from being the CEO because there was some allegations of SA, harassment, trying to go with the women in the thing. And if you rebuffed his advances, people will have issues, about that. So someone wrote an op-ed on it, and I'm just going to show you briefly. Let me share my screen. So it says The Truth About Essence, and it was written by Black Female Anonymous, and it was in the Medium magazine. And this was January 28th, 2020, when this was written. So definitely you could go to this and go over it. But again, it just talked about that there was some allegations going around. And it says, I'll just read what I have up here. It says an op-ed entitled "The Truth About Essence" was published on Medium, and that outlined allegations of a toxic workplace culture in which Black employees are systematically suppressed by pay inequity, SSH, corporate bullying, intimidation, colorism, and classism. And so they had called for his resignation. I know he did step down, and there was a new CEO placed in the handle. Let me see who that was. Also, so he stepped down in July, and that it was according to this in page 6, that in July of 2020 he had stepped down, resigned, following the scathing op-ed. Okay. However, he was also embroiled in another scandal. Now, this happened in 2011, even before he bought. It says Harlem's National. Now, this was written in the DNA info, and it says, and this was written March 13th, 2011. It says Harlem National Black Theater scammed by investors, reports say. And so it goes into what happened. I will go over this particular article because this is information that about another person who's also involved with the Essence Ventures. It says 2 investors who were supposed to oversee renovations of the National Black Theater in Harlem instead used the money for their own businesses, leaving the theater in foreclosure, the New York Post reported. Now, who were the 2 investors? Make this bigger, y'all. Hold on so you all can see it as I see it. Who were the 2 investors? Richelieu Dennis and Naima Tubman. And if you're familiar with her, she is one of the investors or employees of Essence Magazine, of Essence. And she's over their global initiative. And they reportedly used a $6.5 million loan intended for an overhaul of the theater at 2031 Fifth Avenue for their own soap and lotion business, Nubian Heritage. As a result, property taxes and the theater went unpaid, and the bank lender began foreclosing procedures against the 43-year-old institution. Our 8-year relationship with Nubian began with such promise, but quickly became an enormous drain on our financial resources, said Michael Lycott and Sadie Lycott, the children of the National Black Theater founder, Barbara Ann Tier, in a statement. This group continually took advantage of our commitment to African-American entrepreneurship and our advocacy on behalf of our friends. So, here is where, again, to me, here's the red flag. You partnering with traditionally Black American corporation theater. You come in and you lend your assistance, smiling, hey, we're going to help you do this. We're going to get this money to get together to renovate this theater that's been a staple within the community for 40-something years. And then what happens? The $6.5 million loan is not paid back. They've used the loan on their businesses, hair products and all, and they've left this business stranded to the point that it had to foreclose. Now they come down here. The businessmen use the theater building as collateral for a $6.5 million loan in 2006. And the bank foreclosed on the property after Dennis and Tubman stopped paying the previous loans. So they were able to, and I'm sorry, but that's scamming to me. And you all let me know if that definition of scamming is incorrect. So against the building, you get a $6.5 million loan. You pay the loan for a few months, then you skip because you've got the money and you left this business floundering, literally paying the bill. And they're thinking that the money is getting ready to be used to rehab and refund this building, and it did not happen. And I don't know what happened after that. Let me make sure that I see. They don't give us any information about what happened, but clearly these two people have been known to skip off on some money. That is what's documented from the DNA info. And I'm going to put the links of the articles that I used to talk with you all today. So what I want to do at this point is to talk about Essence, is to talk about, we're going to listen to what Richelieu Dennis says, and we're going to go over, because there is a content creator on TikTok named Murikak. I hope I'm pronouncing her name. She did some deep diving on some information. And I want her to be able to talk about this stuff. But first, we want Richelieu Dennis. He was on the Breakfast Club, and he addressed a couple of things about Essence Fest. So right now, let's get into what he says about the criticism about Black American culture. Let me see if I can play this.
We have one African performer, Davido. Mm-hmm. Right. That to me doesn't say that we're losing our center, right? We remain extremely centered on African American culture, right? And on Black women. That's our center. That doesn't mean we can't expand out from our center. All it means is we can't lose our center. So if you were on the ground, if you were there, you see that center is very much there, right? You go into the convention center, right? You look at what happened on the stages. You look at what happened. If you were there, you know that we're still centered, right? But if you were there, you also know that we're growing and that we're broadening, because everybody has to grow broaden. Otherwise, you won't be around, right? There's also sort of the philosophical approaches to this. Is I view myself as Black. I've benefited from being Black, and I have also lost from being Black. When I walk in the room, what people see, if they don't know me, when I walk in the room, I walk down the street, they see a Black man, right? My entire life has been dedicated to uplifting Black. I've focused it on the economics, on the economic side of Black, because that's what I know how to do. That's what I'm skilled at. The thing that I've learned from that is we're much better off when we're focused on our commonalities and we're building on those commonalities. As I said, I grew up, King, Garvey, Lumumba, right? That the thinking around, hey, we have a much better chance of developing and growing our communities when we find the commonalities and the alignments, and we're working towards shared goals and shared objectives. When we don't do that, we become much smaller, right? And much more volatile and much more vulnerable.
I can't believe we took the time to explain that. If me, Buju Banton, and DeVito are walking down the street, and a white supremacist see us, guess what we see? Black niggas.
That's it.
What are we talking about here?
All right, so you just heard that. So he talked about making sure that it was centered, right? Now, no one is saying, I don't know what this echo is. I don't know what this is. StreamYard has come up with some new, let me see. StreamYard has come up with some new ticks and things, and I have not gotten all of that thing, so I apologize. So let me know how the echo is going. But we heard what he said. He was basically saying this: we haven't lost its center, but we're going to be bringing in some more things, particularly bringing in the African diaspora. Now, let's call it a bean. He is the owner. He is someone who was born and raised on the continent in Liberia. So of course, he is going to want to make sure that his culture is also is represented. But here is the thing that he is not trying to tell you all. So this creator right here, Mirakak, she's got some information to tell us, and let me see if I can reload this. Sorry, y'all. Hold on. Let me get back to where I was. Let's get to her.
You asked a very good question. Okay, so the question is, ask ChatGPT if that benefits us Black Americans in any way. And what he's talking about is how the African Union plans on tapping into the $1.7 trillion that of Black America, right? And so, so I'm gonna ask because and you gotta look at the Stitch video. Look at the Stitch video to know what I'm talking about, okay? Because that's the plan, okay? So, does it benefit African Americans? Let's see. Tapping into the $1.7 trillion buying power of African Americans, a figure often cited in U.S. market studies, can potentially benefit both African Americans and Africans, but the distribution of benefits and losses depends on how the African Union or African entities engage with our market. Okay, so let's break it down. Potential benefits for Africans on the continent. Economic growth. If African businesses, creatives, or exporters gain access to African American consumers, this can drive exports, fashion, tech, food, tourism, art, etc., creating jobs and generating foreign exchange. Diaspora investment. African Americans could be encouraged to invest in African real estate, startups, and infrastructure, cultural reconnection. Pan-African identity will be strengthened, leading to increased cultural collaboration and education exchange. Now for Black Americans, cultural empowerment, buying African-made products can deepen cultural ties and foster a sense of pride and identity. We already know who we are.
Correct.
Business opportunities. African Americans can serve as cultural brokers, agents, or co-investors in Africa-based ventures, especially in tech, African entertainment, and tourism. Diversification. Engaging with African markets provides investment and supply chain diversification away from Western-dominated systems. That's the potential benefits. Now let's go into the potential risks and losses for us, okay? So for Africans, what they could lose is exploitation risk. If partnerships are extractive, marketing African without real African producers benefiting anything, Africa could serve as a brand without gaining value. Dependency. Over-reliance on diaspora markets may distract from building local and regional demands and self-sufficiency. Makes a good point. Okay, so for Black Americans, okay, the risk and the losses for us is an economic drain. If spending shifts heavily toward imported African goods or overpriced heritage, quote unquote, services, it might not translate into real community wealth unless ownership, which I was talking about, or equity is retained. That's why I will continue to say, wherever our money goes, we need to own. or it's for nothing. Okay? That's the one thing. Either I own it or no. Gatekeeping by elites is another potential loss. Benefits may be captured by middlemen. Oh my gosh, that's what I was saying. Middlemen or elites on both sides, leaving grassroots entrepreneurs and everyday people out. It could be a freaking yes, a money grab for the elites. Leaving it there. So that's a potential risk. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's the chart, and you get to see. For strategic, equitable trade and investment, both sides benefit more. Who loses more? Minimal. Okay? But then you get to surface level cultural marketing without structural support. Africans have the short-term gains, whereas African Americans money outflow and we get little return. Which I was saying, there's little. What's coming in for us? What's coming in for us? Where's our ownership? You know what I'm saying? So then, the third one is extractive partnerships run by elites and corporations. Okay.
So I'm going to stop that right there, only because I want to go ahead and kind of discuss. Basically, what we're hearing, and remember I told you earlier when it said that the focus, he was like, well, we're centering Black Americans and centering Black American women. Now, that content creator also had a video, and I apologize, I couldn't find it, that she talked about the Essence Venture and their global marketing scheme. And basically what they want to do is, the priority is to center Black Americans using their 1.7, and Star Child said it perfectly. They plan to take our $1.7 trillion in spending power and use it to fund their global initiatives in Africa. Now remember, and they're using the Essence Fest to be able to get those monies. Once more, let me let you hear this. In their global scheme, they are using our Black Americans' $1.7 trillion of spending to fund their resources. This is why you hear a lot of them say, oh, our Black American culture is African culture. Oh, smiling in your face and want to tell you, oh, see, you all are lost. You don't know. Remember the tricks that are used. First, you are criticized and belittled. Here's the criticism and the belittling. Black Americans don't have any culture. Your culture is the motherland. Your culture is Africa. You don't know your culture because you don't know where you're from. And when we try to explain Black American culture is Black American culture, we are literally 400 plus years removed from any of our ancestors being born on the continent of Africa. And so the culture that we have here is our culture. Now, it is respected. If someone says that they're from Jamaica, no one questions them that they're from Jamaica. Any other part of the Caribbean, no one says anything to them about being from the Caribbean and they have their culture in any one of the Caribbean islands and countries, so forth and so on. But again, the way to get us here in America, because the United States of America is predominantly white folks, they don't understand or believe that we have a culture. It's just American culture. No, Black Americans have culture. Anything that's driven as far as entertainment, dress, food, all of this stuff, it's driven by Black Americans. Music, all of this is driven by Black Americans. Now, the white America wants to say, oh, it's just Gen Z culture. No. They get all of the slang and all of these little different things. They get it from Black American culture. When we talk about people disrespect and look down on it was used to be called Ebonics and now it's called AAVE. No, you all just don't learn. I don't know why y'all just won't sit down and learn how to speak English correctly. And there are folks in our community that talk like this. Yet, you can go down to Jamaica, you can go to Haiti, Cameroon, and all of these different countries where they have pidgin, they have Creole, they have other ways that they are speaking English or French. And those dialects and ways to speak are respected. But when we say, oh, we're speaking AAVE, we code switch, we do all that. No, I don't understand. That's just ignorant. No, that's part of our culture. And I claim everything about my culture, good, bad, or indifferent, because I know from being world traveled, it's the same everywhere in regards, there's good, there's bad, and then there's indifferent. And that number 4, there is your government. Okay? So first they ridicule us and tell us that we don't have any culture. It all comes from Africa, the motherland. Will I deny that there may be some similarities? Yes, but overall, there are things that people from the continent do that we don't have any idea or knowledge about. That is what their culture, or even understand why they do what they do. That doesn't mean that we hate Africa, the continent. That just means it's a cultural divide, it's a cultural difference. And that's okay. It's not xenophobia. If I sit here and say that I am proud of my Black American culture, and I want to make sure that people are not trying to take my culture or make it seem like I don't have a culture. Or if we get upset when we see what we see, you all are not gaslighting us. So let's look at this. I have a little chart up here about Black America saying, this festival doesn't feel as if Black American culture is centered. Now they'll come back and say, oh, well, we had all of these Black acts, these Black American acts. We only had like 2 or 3. That is not what they're talking about. See, you notice how they never talked about what the people who had the boots on the ground when they were talking about being in the convention center. No one is talking about this all of a sudden Jollof versus a jambalaya cook-off. Where did that come from? And a DJ that was talking about how Jollof and everything was in big letters, and then jambalaya was in the small letters. Those things, people say, "Oh, you're being nitpicky." No. Here you are 20 years in, and it's been New Orleans culture, foods and vendors and things like that. And that's my number 2 thing. The vendors. People were saying that they didn't get the vendors that usually are coming from the city or throughout the world, that they be, throughout America, where they can get these vendors to come and sell their wares. Are there vendors coming from the Caribbean? Are there vendors coming from England? Are there vendors coming from the continent? Absolutely, they are. But they noticed that there was a huge increase in diaspora vendors. They also talked about that there were women from the continent who were in beauty pageants and stuff like that, wearing their crowns and wearing their stuff, versus the fact that there are all of these HBCUs that are here in the United States, and I don't, and not one of them were represented. let me explain. I'm gonna go back over this, Star Child, but this right here, they gave a lot of these vendors letters saying that their services were no longer needed, and then they pushed a lot of African continent or Caribbean vendors. They didn't talk about the snafu that they had with Juvia's place, where Juvia said that they were going to give out 200 of their boxes that had $100 boxes, and it was so congested because people were wanting to get this box, this makeup box, that the fire marshals had to come and close and shut it down because there was too many people in the convention center. That was over capacity. And then come to find out that they never did give out 200 boxes like they said they were. They didn't talk about how they iced out or they sent cease and desist letters to local businesses who in the past have always capitalized on the traffic of the people in the convention center. Because again, you remember, this is always a 3-day event. Not only are the people paying for the music acts, they're paying for the hotels, they're paying for food, they're paying for sightseeing services and all of these little different things. These are all dollars that are brought into the city of New Orleans. It is a symbiotic relationship. They talked about how sparse the conference is, and they talked about how corporate it was. And another thing too, in regards, and again, I'm talking about what happened in the conference center. And here is the disconnect. They know that we are boycotting Target because of that DEI initiative being taken away, or being not slightly, being removed or diminished. Now, clearly, I understand that there are contracts, and they are multi-year contracts. But what we do know as Black Americans on this land, white people will play in your face. And here's where you see Skinfolks and Kinfolks. Because here is the thing, anytime it's something good or something that can be profited on by the diaspora, we all fam, we Black folks. How tone deaf of them to not even to make to at least say, hey, we've got a multi-year contract with Target. We understand what's going on and we understand the thing, but this is why they're here. You had a lot of people that were like, this is not a good look, because it makes us as Black Americans look crazy. Now they'll scoot off and say that, we're African, we're the motherland, and act like they don't know what's going on, but they're being tone deaf. Same thing with the streamer Kai Cenat. He was very big and say that Black Americans don't have any culture. But he's all up at the BET Awards. He's all in rap music. We'll continue. So Black Americans feel that the Black American culture is not being centered. And they'll tell you that essence is Black culture. Now they're using these terms because they're meaning the diaspora. Black culture is the motherland. It is Africa. We're all one. And besides, the festival is now owned by an African. Deal with it. We talk about Black American culture being erased. And again, The first sign is to tell you that you don't have any culture. Your culture comes from Africa. You are a lost people because you don't know where you won't go to Africa and you don't know where you come from. But everything that you do and everything you are is Africa. Well, they're telling us that. And as the old folks always tell me, they pissing on you and calling it rain. They want you to believe that what they're talking about is supposed to nourish and edify you, but you know something stink. And here's what stinks: that these global initiatives and these things that they're wanting to do and to expand, they want to do it off the financial backs of Black Americans. They've said it. They talk about global partnership. Sorry about that, y'all. Let me share this screen over here really quick. There's a portion of it that I want to talk about. Now, this is the Essence Ventures and the NCAC forge global culture partnerships at Lagos Stakeholders Lunch. Now, I had said before in the other video, now these are all the people. Now, here she is. If you see this, this is the Tubman woman. No, excuse me. This is the Tubman woman. Let me make this bigger so that we can read it. So here it is. The Essence Festival of Culture, which is now what Essence Fest is called, held annually in New Orleans, is the largest festival in America by per day attendance, attracting over 500,000 attendees daily over the 3-day event. The lunch signals and recognizes Essence global intent and expansion, aiming to build a solid foundation for its global Black community and bridge the gap with Nigeria as a focal country due to its rich talents, history, tradition, entrepreneurship, heritage, and significant percentage of the Black diaspora. So in order for them to get there, we got to fund that. They want us to fund that. And that's where they're pissing on us, because this is their goal. So if they want to take the Essence Festival and have it in Nigeria, they need to make those plans next year. Because if they have the Essence Festival in New Orleans again, knowing that their main audience that they're trying to bridge the gap with is Nigeria, go and have it in Nigeria. But of course not, because they need these Black American dollars. And I know people are like, oh, y'all don't do this, y'all don't make any money. It is well known. And it's sad, but it's just the truth. That money in the Black American community doesn't stay longer than 2 to 3 hours. We spend a lot of money, good, bad, or indifferent. That is the truth. And everyone wants our dollars, but they want us to give it to them and be quiet. And they want us to give them those dollars with no return. No return. And they want us to trust people. They want us to trust people who we know have been scamming folks, Black Americans and Black American businesses. How unlucky for them that the election happened when it happened. How unlucky for them that Black Americans are starting to wake up and to realize that, number one, not only are we supposed to be the scapegoats for anything that happens, you have the government deporting everybody, but that's a Black Americans' fault. You saying that they are deporting people to countries that they don't have any connection to. You didn't have any connection to the United States of America, but you illegally immigrated to the United States of America. You didn't have any connection. Now, I'm not telling you, don't mishear me. I'm not saying that it is right, because they should send you back to, if they're going to send you back, they need to send you back to the country that you originated from. But because of the election, now you have a quasi dictator in power, writing executive orders, building Alexander Alcatraz, his cronies, hoping that the alligators get them. And here's the curious thing, because people say, well, you know, it's going to be y'all. It never stopped being us. This is what we were trying to tell y'all. Y'all are just getting a little piece of what we've gotten for 400 years. We know how it works here. We know what we had to do to get to this point. But you all in the diaspora say that, oh, well, we love you, we do all this, but you don't listen to us. Meanwhile, you're not listening to us. You're not in community with us. But you're steady taking our dollars. All the while trying to gaslight us like we don't have any culture. Now, Black Americans, some of this is our fault. It's our fault. We are too giving, and we're too we want to be in community with folks that look like us, and we're inviting. But we need to be like sinners. We need to make sure we need to question why they asking to come in like they're asking to come in. They're vampires. Now, I don't want anybody to take this video as if there is like this hate and that I'm trying to do these diaspora wars. That is far from the truth. This video is for my fellow Black Americans to wake your behinds up and notice that the okie doke comes from all sides. Everybody wants to use you, use your body, use your bodies for protesting, knowing that when you go out there to protest, you are going to be the target. They want us to be in coalition. We've learned we can't be in we cannot be in coalition with the Asian community, because back when was that 2017 when that man went into that nail place and pruned them folks from the timeline, and they were looking to put this Asian hate bill that got passed. Black Americans were marching and being in solidarity with the Asian community, all for the Asian community to come back in 2022, 2023 to get affirmative action dismantled, because they believe that they are supposed to be in Harvard in all the Ivy League schools. And then when we tried to explain to them, we are not taking their spots. Why are they not looking at the white tea people, legacy people? Those are the people that have the spots. All they have to say is their parents went there and they get in. Meanwhile, Black Americans have to not only get their grades, because no one is going in those schools and they don't have the grades. They don't have the community. They don't have any of those other things that they were looking for. But they worked with the white tea people because they were convinced that we were the problem. Because again, in the United States of America, if anything goes on, it's Black Americans are the problem. But you still hadn't made any progress because you're still not getting in at the rate that you thought you was going to get in. We have the deportations. We told you all that this was going to happen. These things were going to happen. No. I will vote for Donald Trump. Now, Abuela them, and you knew you had family members that had come over illegally. You knew it. Now they're scooping you up from jobs. They're scooping you up from, I just saw they were scooping people up from a hospital appointment. You're going in thinking that you're gonna get your immigration status set. They're scooping you up and sending you out of here. They have closed off several African countries from coming over here. You got to have specialized visas to come. Same with some Caribbean countries. Mexicans, we march with you. You don't even claim the African Latinos in your in your community. We all know and understand what happened in Los Angeles with those predominantly Black communities. You all went into those communities. They those Black folks herald you in. Hey, come in, you can get a house, whatever. Then you sneak down to the border to get your cousins, your uncles, your aunties. You sneak them across the border, and then you harass the Black folks that are in the community to the point that they move, or you are not only harassing and assaulting, oh, we're talking about it, that you push those people out of the community. And then turn around and talk about those talking points. Oh, Black folks are lazy. They've been calling us lazy ever since they couldn't make us work for free anymore. But how lazy could a people be with everything that you throw at us to keep us to move forward? We're moving forward despite all of that. Once you realized that we were not subhuman and that we could learn at a rate or more than you take away a lot of stuff in the education or funding. Why? Because most Black Americans are funded by public schools. Jobs that once said that you didn't need but a high school diploma. When Black Americans started to move into those jobs, all of a sudden those jobs required college degrees. You had to have a bachelor's degree. Black folks going to college and getting those bachelor's degrees. No. You need to have you need to have a master's degree. Meanwhile, Those white tea people with those high school diplomas are still in those jobs. And even when they leave and go to another job, they're able to use their CV, their resume to get them the other job. But your resume has to show that you have you have a college degree. But anyway, I think I have one more piece. I think we needed to, let me go back through to make sure. So I am going to let him talk about the
was a sponsor. What happened Essence Festival weekend?
Look, we had over 40 acts, best talent in the world, and they deserve the best acoustics. They deserve the best production, and we'll give that to them. We've given that to them for 30 years. This 31st year, we didn't do as good a job as we normally do. And next year we'll do a better job than we've ever done because we've learned what the issues were. So
why was Lauren Hill so late? She said it wasn't her fault.
It absolutely was not her fault.
Okay. She said she thanked y'all for actually stepping up and saying it wasn't her fault.
Our job is to protect Black women. We're not going to sit here and say, hey, because she's taking the heat, we're going to be quiet, because that's not what we are. That's not what Essence is about. That's not what we're building. There were production issues with the audio video system that caused the delay in her performance.
Mm-hmm.
We own that, right? Those delays, were primarily because we've been very aggressive in, as I said earlier, our job is to develop the infrastructure that drives Black businesses, right? So we also want to make sure that we're investing in the local businesses in New Orleans. And so, one of the things that is also satisfying, but scary, is that there are no more Black festivals around, right? We're about the only independent one left. And so what that means is that the people that get to produce these festivals, fewer of them, have the resources and the access and the ability to run these large festivals because they're not getting those opportunities. I said to my team a year ago, is we need to go out and find the types of partners that we can develop and grow so that they have the opportunities to do these. Next year, we will have a local, well-trained, well-developed partner in that area because we got the experience we had this year.
So y'all didn't have the right production team to pull off a show, a concert of that scale, basically.
For the sound.
Yes, right. However, sorry, I just
you go ahead.
grab that, right? Our job is to train them up. It's not their fault, right? It's our fault, right? We have to. If we're going to go that route.
All right, so I'm not going to go through all of that. And he also talked about targeting sponsor, but I think that I've effectively talked about what's going on with that. But again, I just wanted to come on here, and here are the two parts that were very important for me to let you all know. Number one, they're wanting to fund a global initiative, and they're wanting to use your Black dollars to do so. And the issue that I have is you should say that so that we can make conscious decisions. So I am saying to you that this is what's going on. I predict they're going to have Essence Fest in New Orleans next year. But they what I see that they're looking to do is to bring Essence Fest to Nigeria. But you funding that festival next year is going to cause, probably in the next 2 years, you're going to be abandoned. Because they have said, particularly, and I've looked over it and go back over it again, this is from their magazine, right here, the second paragraph, with Nigeria as a focal country due to its rich talents. And they're wanting to make sure that this allows for them to get their money up so they could go to Nigeria and get the riches that they see over in the continent. But we're not seeing any returns because of the fact that they are treating us like everyone treats us. And here is the thing. We've opened up our eyes to see that. And let me see that because hold on, I had it up. And they have been gaslighting us to say within the past 3 or 4 years, oh, our culture is your culture, y'all are, because before nobody wanted to associate being Black. Now they'll say, oh, that's not true, people in the diaspora never talk down to you all. Okay, I need for you all to understand that if you have a large African community in your city, how many of you all were invited over to the home? How inviting are they? Because they will say, and then they'll turn around and say, well, y'all call us African booty scratchers. Not talking about the 6 and 7 terms that they call us and tell us. Christian Ubunseli kind of made you see that. All the different names that were called. We understand the talk. Those of you all that are on TikTok, there will be 1,700 lives about Black Americans, because now there are terminologies that are being used, because again, I think what's happening is a lot of folks want to separate calling us African Americans. They're upset about that. And Star Child is right. All the immigrants say that they're not Black and they wasn't us. We say, okay, you're not us. Now that's the problem. We're all one people. You can't say that we're not part, we're the part. We're all one people. No, but you told us that we were separate. We don't have a culture. We're lazy. We're thieves. We're all of these things that you all say that we are. Okay. We'll be that. And we'll be over here. Because there are some people that are like, we need to really make sure that the separation is clear. Like we said, there's nothing wrong with diaspora, but it shouldn't be to just the erasure of Black culture. We just want your money and everything else. You don't have any culture. We don't want you to infect us. Can you imagine if we go to Lagos or Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, and wherever they have Afro beats? Can you imagine if we go over there to their festival and say we're going to go over here, we're going to put a little money in, but we want you to play rap music. You can't play that Afro beat. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we go over there? No, y'all can't have y'all food. Y'all got to have soul food. Let's do a competition, soul food and traditional African food. Do you know how up in arms they'll be? I got smoke, but I don't have as much smoke for the Caribbean because they understand, because they're having issues now. You have Jamaica having issues of it being gentrified. Their food, their beaches. It's to the point now that they can't even be on their own beaches because all these corporations, particularly the Chinese, are coming in, buying up all the corporations and telling them that they can't even go on the beach. They can't get out in the water and do their fishing and all the things that they do to keep their economy afloat. And that's their land. Their government is wanting them to change the way that they cook food because the gentrifiers say it's too spicy. The gentrifiers are trying to figure out how they can co-opt carnival in their country. I don't have as much smoke because I know they understand what's going on. All right, y'all. Again, number one, if you go to Essence Vex Nest, you understand and know that they're going to put on a show. Their show is going to be improved, and this is all from Mr. Dennis. That the conference area is going to have a global feel. So you're going to have global operators there and vendors there, and that the local vendors won't be as present, but they will have some so that they will not have any smoke. Black American issues will not be at the forefront. So whatever is going on in the African American community, they'll hit a little bit, but they're mostly going to be hitting all the things that are going on in the diaspora. They're also letting you up and letting you understand and letting you know that because they're saying that, oh, the acts that come, a lot of them are getting old and they're not coming. They're not even talking about the fact that there are transitional acts. I understand that the Gladys Knights and the Patti LaBelles and the Frankie Mazes and Beverly are not going to be there. But please don't act like you don't know nothing about the new additions, the Ashantis, the Sierras, all of those groups from the late 90s into the 2000s. Please don't know nothing about those R&B girlies. Please don't tell me that you don't know anything about the R&B girls and young men that are here today with the Giveons. What's his name? I'm a dog. All of these people right here, all of these younger people who are making music in R&B. The problem is that it's almost folded into pop music. So sometimes it's difficult, but they're there. Oh, now this is diabolical. This is diabolical if they're doing that. So be prepared for the music venue will be more heavy. Will lean more and more through diaspora music. And like I said, they own it, so they can do what they want to. But I need you to understand this is what's happening, and the why it's happening is because they're going to need your dollars, your $1.7 trillion spending. They're going to need at least $1 billion of that so they can fund initiatives over into the motherland and help with their infrastructure. So that's that's your contribution to the diaspora. Now, I'm not saying that there are not any other folks that have money to do that, but they're really depending on you all giving that money. So they're really depending on you all going to the Essence Fest. They're really depending on you all spending your money going to the Essence Fest. Because I also understand that there's a lot of nickel and diming. Things that used to be free at the conference center in the daytime. You're paying $150 to go to BeautyCon. You're paying extra for the acts in the super lounges, if I'm not mistaken, when all of that was part of your ticket. I imagine. I imagine. And it costs vendors, to get their inventory, to get prepared, and that Essence is charging them a fee to be a vendor, or they're charging them a percentage of their tally every day. But anyway, again, it's not my will to start any diaspora wars. I could care less about stuff like that. What it is that I want to be able to be very clear to Black Americans what is going on, so that you all can make the decision that you need to make. I really do hope that you all in the diaspora show up, because now the Essence Fest is for you. It's centered on African diaspora culture, not Black American culture. You're Black for the okie doke, or that's what you tell us. And that is true. But this is what it takes, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to take leadership. It's going to take community, cooperation, integrity, honesty, and also understanding that if you start this, you got to let it marinate. You got to let it live, because you're not going to be making, because a lot of people want to start these things and make quick money. If you're in a business to do something like this, you've got to reinvest that money into the business so that it'll grow, so that people will want to come. It's going to want to grow. It's not going to be janky. You got to find a city that has the same infrastructure like a New Orleans. Things like an airport, a big enough venue to hold it. And please don't say Atlanta. Not that I have an issue and problem with that, but they do have the infrastructure. But there are other cities with a heavy Black population that should get out and get some shine. Because again, we can say it's time to start to do these things, but when the people start talking about it, make sure that you all are a part of that talk. True. Yeah, true. That's what we heard, that most of the vendors in the Superdome and I don't disagree, because of the fact that we know that two of the festival people, the first one and the second one, we know that these two scammed the Harlem Theater out of money. And I meant to talk about her a little bit. Now they're saying that she was on a leave of absence and she wasn't working or doing something. I don't know what that issue is, and I know that she got some backlash. And I was wondering, were they doing that just to kind of protect her in some way, to try to mitigate the responsibilities or not? because they're saying, no, these aren't the people. They showed pictures of a firm doing this Essence Fest. But what I understand about that particular firm is that they have been doing Essence Fest since 2012. So if they've done it between 2012 up until now and they hadn't had too many issues or problems, I'm wondering what happened this year. Now, I do understand that there is a recession. But baby, there was a recession in 2008 and then people showed up. Whole economic downturn and then people showed up. Yep. I went to my very first one was in 97. mm, mm. But they are really trying to mitigate her responsibility. Well, she's the CEO and she's not. Since when did the CEO not be responsible for what? Because that's the leadership role. Who was if she wasn't there, then Mr. Dennis, is your issue, or this young lady right here. Somebody had to be responsible. So they've been organizing since 1995. Ain't no way that you can tell me that, and I understand that you can have some off years and some off stuff, but that's not what people were complaining about. Yes, everything, it was like a cluster F all at one time. You had the production, that being piss poor, because what they were saying in regards to the production was there was a whole lot, the sound system was trash. Number one, the artists were saying that they couldn't even do sound check. And then the setup between artists was atrocious because they all had scheduled, and then they started at 8 o'clock. So yes, they were going late into the night, but they said that Lauryn Hill didn't end till 4 o'clock that morning because she didn't come on to 3 o'clock when she was supposed to have actually come on about 11 o'clock to midnight. And they said every act in between, there was an issue with the sound. It was an issue with getting those people's stage together. And the fact that it started late. It was beyond CP time. And you know, we can't stay up that late. And especially if we are, the way the scheduling is, if there's something at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning that we want to get to, getting out of a concert at 4:30, shoot, all you can do is get you a Red Bull, wash your behind, and then go out to the thing. But then you're not going to be any good because at some point you got to sleep. But again, if that's the case, you've got your right thumb and your fingers, the right fingers are not working together. The sound system, whatever, everything should have been in unison. They should have 3 or 4 days before anybody showed up. They should have had all of that together. Because then they would have known that there was an issue and there was a problem. Exactly. They just had inmates. They got all of them but one, from what I understand. But you just had a few weeks before then. You have a whole bunch, 11 inmates to escape the thing. Who wants to be walking around the French Quarter with all that going on? But anyway, thank you all so much for rocking with me today with my pop culture chat, talking about updating you all on the information in regards to the Essence Fest. I want to leave y'all that all skin folks ain't kinfolk. Just because we look alike or we look similar Doesn't mean culturally we are the same or that we think alike. Just letting you know that thinking about going to Essence Festival, just go back through this video and figure out if it's going to be something that you want to be able to be involved with or you want to do. It's not for me to tell you what to do or not to do. And thank you. Make sure you hit that like button for me. Make sure you hit that like button. That helps with my engagement and that helps me get up in the algorithm. And thank you all so much for my 1,300 plus subscribers. I really do appreciate it. All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, all skin folks ain't kinfolk. So please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.